The rain had been falling for hours, soaking the cracked pavement of Ravenwell Central Station, a place where forgotten people drifted like ghosts. The night trains were delayed, the loudspeakers were silent, and the only sound was the steady drumming of water on the rusted metal roof. Stray lights flickered overhead, casting jittery shadows across the waiting platform. A tall white man stood alone near the edge of the platform, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of a frayed jacket. His name was Donovan Hale, though most people simply called him Hale, as though his first name was a luxury he hadn't earned. His beard was rough, his eyes hollow, and he carried the exhaustion of someone who had lived too long in places no one wanted to remember. Once he'd been many things: an architect, a husband, a man with plans and people who waited for him. But all of that belonged to a different lifetime, before a single night had ripped everything from him and left him wandering across the country with no destination, no family, and no willingness to be known. He was a man trying hard not to exist. That was when the small voice cut through the rain. A boy, no more than 10, stepped out from behind the row of ticket machines. His clothes were damp, his shoes worn out, and his backpack sagged as though it carried the weight of a life much larger than his body. His skin was dark, glistening with raindrops, and his eyes were sharp, too sharp for a child. He stopped in front of Hale, lifting his chin in a way that looked both brave and desperate. "You have no home, and I have no mother," the boy said. Hale froze. The sentence hit him like a fist to the ribs. Not because of what it meant, but because of how it was spoken, with certainty, with knowledge, with a strange conviction that suggested he wasn't merely guessing. Hale did not speak. He only stared at the child, confused, irritated, and, somewhere deep inside, shaken. The boy continued, his voice steady despite the trembling in his hands. "So I figured," he said, trying to square his shoulders, "maybe that means you're supposed to help me." Hale scowled, turning away. "I don't help people," he muttered. The boy followed him anyway. "But you need me," the boy said. "And I need you." Hale blinked. "Kid, you don't know a thing about me." The boy didn't back down. "I know enough. Everybody here walks past you like you're invisible. People like that always have nowhere to go." Hale felt his jaw tighten. "And what makes you think I'm one of them?" "Because," the boy whispered, "I'm one of them too." The words hung heavily between them, mixing with the cold rain and the smoke drifting from the old station pipes. For a long moment Hale did nothing. He didn't speak, didn't move, didn't even look at the boy. But inside him, something small and painful stirred. The echo of a memory he had spent years burying. The boy took a slow breath. "My name is Ethan Cade," he said. "What's yours?" Hale almost ignored him, almost walked away, almost pretended he didn't hear the trembling under the boy's voice. But then he saw it. The bruises on Ethan's wrist, half healed, half hidden. The knot in the boy's backpack strap from being pulled too violently. The way he flinched every time a sound echoed behind them. This was not a lost child. This was a child running. And Hale knew the signs because once upon a time he had run too. Still, he didn't give his name. Names meant connection. Connection meant risk. Risk meant pain. But Ethan didn't seem to care about that. He stepped closer, boldly, almost defiantly, and said, "Train leaves in 20 minutes. I'm getting on it. With you." Hale stiffened. "What makes you think I'm going anywhere?" "Because," Ethan said softly, "you look like someone who needs to leave more than you need to stay." A clap of thunder rolled through the station, and Hale realized something unsettling. This boy, the small, determined stranger who appeared out of nowhere, was right. About everything. But the moment was broken by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Loud, fast, direct. The boy's reaction was instant. His face tightened, his shoulders curled inward, and he took a single terrified step toward Hale, clutching the edge of his soaked jacket. Hale knew fear when he saw it. And this wasn't the fear of being lost. This was the fear of being found. The footsteps grew louder, pounding through the hollow station corridor and echoing off the rain-dampened walls. Hale didn't want to get involved. He never did. But the boy's sudden fear carved through him like a blade. Ethan's eyes locked onto the far end of the platform, wide and alert, tracking the unseen shapes approaching. Hale lowered his voice. "Who's coming?" Ethan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Two men emerged from the dim corridor. One white, one black. Both wearing heavy coats that couldn't hide the bulk underneath. Their steps were purposeful, scanning, hunting. The kind of walk Hale had seen before from men who weren't looking for conversation. Ethan grabbed a fistful of Hale's sleeve. "Please," he whispered, "don't let them see me." Hale's first instinct was to pull away. He didn't save people. He didn't protect people. He barely protected himself. But then Ethan's grip tightened. Not in desperation, but in trust. A trust Hale hadn't earned and didn't want. Yet it stirred something in him. Something he thought he had buried in the rubble of his past life. He released a slow breath. "Fine," he muttered. "Keep behind me. Don't move." Ethan quickly slipped behind Hale just as the two men stepped onto the center of the platform. The black man scanned the empty benches, his jaw shifting as he looked for signs of movement. The white man wiped rain from his brow and spoke in a voice that carried easily. He couldn't have gotten far. Hale didn't flinch, but his heartbeat ticked up a notch. The black man frowned. "He's small, but he's smart. Kid's been slipping past us like smoke." The white man spat to the side. "And tonight he decided to run right into a storm. Perfect." They were now only a few meters from Hale. Ethan's quiet breathing trembled behind his back. Hale stayed still. He didn't want trouble. He didn't want involvement. He didn't want to step into a situation he didn't understand. But the men's voices said enough. They weren't here out of concern. They weren't here out of kindness. They were here to retrieve something they believed they owned. Or someone. Hale kept his eyes forward as the white man walked up to him. "Evening," the man said, forcing a polite smile. "You seen a little black kid around here? About 10 years old. Thin. Wearing a blue jacket." Hale didn't blink. "No." The man studied him for a long moment, eyes narrowing, brain ticking. Ethan held his breath behind Hale, invisible but very much a heartbeat away from being exposed. "You sure?" the man asked. Hale met his gaze with cold indifference. "I mind my own business." The man didn't like that answer. Hale could see it in his tightened jaw, the faint flare of irritation in his nostrils. The black man stepped closer. "People say that right until it becomes their problem," he said. Hale's expression didn't change. "I said what I said." The white man exhaled, annoyed, and motioned for his partner to move on. They walked farther down the platform, checking behind benches, looking along the tracks, scanning every shadow. When they were far enough away, Ethan slowly stepped out from behind Hale, barely able to speak. You didn't tell them." Hale didn't look at him. He kept his eyes fixed on the men in the distance. "Didn't feel like talking." Ethan swallowed. "Are they going to come back?" "Probably." The boy's face paled. Hale glanced down at him, studying the fear wrapped around the boy's small shoulders. There was more to this, more than orphanhood, more than running, more than bruises. The kind of more that brought dangerous men into train stations during storms. Ethan shifted, hugging his backpack tightly. "They work for someone," he whispered. Hale didn't respond, he only waited. Ethan hesitated, then spoke again. "He's looking for me." Hale frowned. "Who?" Ethan looked away. "My father." The words dropped like stones into a silent well. Hale didn't react outwardly, but inside, something twisted. Fathers and sons were wounds that never healed cleanly. He had lived that truth himself. Before he could respond, Ethan tugged his sleeve again. "We have to leave before they circle back," he said, voice shaking. "The train. We need to get on that train." Hale stared at him for a long, silent moment. He could walk away. Leave the boy to fate. Pretend none of this involved him. It was the kind of choice he had made before. And yet, he exhaled. "All right," he muttered. "We'll get on the train. But once we're on, you start talking. No more guessing." Ethan nodded quickly, relief flooding his tense features. Just as they turned toward the boarding platform, the loudspeaker crackled to life for the first time that night. "Last call for northbound Line 7, departing in 4 minutes." The timing was almost too perfect, almost like the universe was pulling them forward. But before they could move, the black man's voice boomed from the far end of the station. "Hey, you! Stop right there." Hale spun, gripping Ethan's arm. The men had spotted them. They were running now, hard, fast, determined. Ethan's eyes widened in terror. "Hale! Run!" Hale barked. "Now!" The boy didn't hesitate. He bolted, and Hale ran with him, not because he wanted to, but because something in this moment, this boy, this chase, this storm, felt like the beginning of a road he could no longer refuse to walk. The footsteps behind them grew louder, and the train doors were already starting to close. The piercing screech of metal on metal cut through the night as the train's doors began their slow, mechanical slide toward closing. Rainwater splashed beneath Hale's boots as he and Ethan sprinted across the slick platform. The storm howled through the open station, pushing cold air against their backs. Behind them, the two men thundered forward. "Don't let them reach the train," the white man shouted. Ethan's breath came in sharp bursts. Hale could hear the panic in every step the boy took. The platform was long, too long, and the distance between them and the closing doors seemed to stretch with every passing second. "Faster, kid," Hale urged, grabbing Ethan's backpack and pulling him forward. Ethan stumbled but kept running. He didn't cry. He didn't freeze. He didn't collapse. He fought to keep up. Hale noticed that and respected it. The train hissed as the doors were nearly shut, mere inches left before they sealed completely. "Wait," Ethan gasped. "Hale, we're not gonna make it." Hale gritted his teeth, grabbing Ethan around the waist. "Jump," he growled, and then he threw the boy through the narrowing gap. Ethan tumbled inside, hitting the opposite seat with a thud. He scrambled to his knees just as Hale lunged, and a hand clamped around Hale's coat. The black man had reached him. "You're done," the man snarled, trying to yank him backwards. Hale braced his foot against the train's outer step and twisted violently, slamming his shoulder into the man's chest. Rain soaked both of them as they grappled on the slick platform edge. Ethan leaned out, eyes huge with panic. "Hale, come on." The white man ran toward them from behind. "Grab the kid next," he shouted. Hale cursed under his breath and tore himself free from the black man's grip. He reached for the closing door. Only 2 inches left. A boot slammed into the door's mechanical edge, jamming it. Hale forced himself inside. The white man lunged. But the doors sealed shut with a sharp, final gasp of compressed air. The two men slammed their fists against the window in fury as the train lurched forward, slowly pulling away from the platform. Ethan fell backward, panting heavily. Hale leaned against the cold metal wall, catching his breath as the storm-soaked world blurred past the window. For a moment there was silence, only the rattling of the rails beneath them, and the fading screams of the two men on the platform. The car they had entered was empty. Old seats lined the walls, some torn, others stained. This wasn't a luxury line. This was the kind of train used by night workers, drifters, and those who needed to disappear between towns. A perfect place for a child running from a father, and for a man running from himself. Hale shook rainwater from his jacket and looked at Ethan. "What?" he asked, his voice low. "Did we just run from?" Ethan twisted the straps of his backpack nervously. "You said I could explain on the train. So explain." The boy hesitated. "Hale," he whispered, "I don't know where to start." Hale stared at him, unblinking. How about the beginning? Ethan's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. Okay, he whispered. But it won't make sense yet. Hale crossed his arms. Try me. The boy took a deep breath. My father is not like other fathers, Ethan said. He's dangerous. To everyone. Even me. Hale didn't react, but his jaw tightened. Ethan continued, voice trembling. He keeps me for a reason. Not because he loves me. Not because he wants me. But because he needs me for something. Something he won't tell me. Something he says I'm born for. Hale frowned. What does that mean? I don't know, Ethan whispered. But he hurts people. Important people. And they disappear. Hale felt something cold grip the inside of his chest. Ethan, what does your father do? The boy lifted his eyes. Fear swirling inside them like a storm. He works with people who make others vanish. Hale stepped closer. Ethan, who is he? Ethan's voice dropped to a breath. He's the man who decides who never comes home. A chill ran through Hale. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the way Ethan said them. As though this was truth he had lived with for too long. Hale crouched down to eye level with him. And those two men at the station? They're his, Ethan whispered. He sends them to deal with people who try to protect me. Or hide me. Or help me. Hale blinked. People tried to hide you? The boy nodded, tears gathering but not falling. But they always get caught. Always. Hale stared at him for a long, heavy moment. Something wasn't adding up. Something deeper was lurking beneath the boy's words. Something Ethan wasn't ready to say. Still, before Hale could press him further, the train lights flickered overhead. Once, twice. Then the carriage plunged into semi-darkness. Only dim emergency lights glowing along the floor. Ethan grabbed Hale's arm. What's happening? Hale frowned. I don't know yet. The train slowed. Not the normal deceleration of scheduled stops. Not the smooth coasting of an approach. This was abrupt. Rough. Wrong. The rails screeched as sparks flew beneath the carriage. Hale turned toward the window, and his stomach dropped. Outside, standing on an abandoned service platform in the rain, was a man. Alone. Motionless. Watching the train. He wasn't the same one from earlier. This man was taller. Older. His presence felt heavier, darker. Even from the moving train, Hale could see the coldness in his face. Ethan's breath hitched. His voice broke into a whisper full of horror. That's him, Hale. That's my father. Hale's pulse froze, because the man did not look angry. He did not look desperate. He did not look surprised. He looked like someone who always got what he wanted. And he had just found them. The train jolted violently, as if struck. Ethan stumbled. Hale caught him. What's he doing? Ethan gasped. Hale stared out the window as the man slowly lifted one hand and motioned for the train to stop, as though he controlled it, as though he owned it, as though the world would obey him because it always had. And then, horrifyingly, the train began to slow, but no one was driving it. No conductor, no staff, no passengers, just Hale, just Ethan. And the man who wanted the boy back. Hale grabbed Ethan's hand. We're getting off this train, he growled. Now. Because he realized one terrifying truth. Running wouldn't be enough. They were up against someone who didn't chase. He hunted. The brakes screamed as the train shuddered under an unseen command. Sparks flashing beneath the wheels like dying stars. The emergency lights flickered again, casting pale red halos across the empty cabin. Hale tightened his grip on Ethan's wrist. What's happening? Ethan whispered. Hale didn't answer. He didn't need to, because the train wasn't just slowing. It was obeying. Obeying Ethan's father. The man stood on the abandoned service platform, unmoving, rain drenching him, his coat plastered against his frame. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't gesture again. He simply watched as the massive steel machine bent to his will. Hale's instincts screamed, This was not a man you reasoned with. Not a man you ran from forever. Not a man who believed the rules applied to him. And Ethan was terrified. Hale, the boy choked. He's going to make the train stop, and then he'll get on. He always gets on. Hale yanked Ethan closer. Not this time. Ethan shook his head violently. You don't understand, you can't just run. He'll find us. He'll use people. Kid. Hale crouched to his level. Listen to me. Ethan's breathing went rapid and hot in the cold air. Hale's voice lowered, steady, unshakable. He is a man, flesh and blood, maybe powerful, maybe dangerous, but still a man. Ethan's eyes glistened. He's not like anyone you've ever seen. Hale didn't blink. You haven't seen the people I've run from. Thunder broke overhead. The lights flickered again, then shut off completely. Darkness swallowed the carriage. Ethan gasped. Hale! Hale grabbed him by the arm. Stay close. Hold on. The train screeched as it came to a grinding, painful halt, shaking the entire cabin as if resisting the command forced upon it. Then, thump! A heavy impact landed on the roof. Ethan's body went rigid. He's here. Hale, he's on the train. Hale stared upward, jaw clenched. No footsteps followed. No movement. Just the weight of a presence that made the metal seem thinner, weaker. What does he want with you? Hale whispered. Ethan lowered his eyes. Everything. Before Hale could ask more, a sharp metallic slicing sound ripped through the roof. Slow, deliberate, like a blade carving its way inward. Ethan's grip tightened painfully. He knows where we are. Hale grabbed the emergency exit window. It opens from inside. Come on. But he'll see. He sees everything anyway. Hale snapped. We need distance. He forced the latch. The window groaned open. Outside, the rain poured harder, the tracks glistening like black rivers under the storm. The train stood at a forgotten junction surrounded by abandoned warehouses and rusted cargo crates. No people, no witnesses, no help. Ethan climbed through first, landing on the gravel with a stumble. Hale followed, and the moment his boots hit the ground, the slicing above them stopped. Silence. Deep, heavy, wrong. Hale froze. He's not on the roof anymore, Ethan whispered. That's not good, Hale muttered. Something shifted in the shadows beside the train. A low, calm voice emerged from the darkness. Ethan. The boy flinched violently. Hale stepped in front of him. The man who had watched them from the platform now walked slowly along the length of the train, moving with purpose, not haste. Rain slid down his face, but his eyes remained sharp, calculating, dangerous. He stopped about 20 feet away. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He didn't even raise a hand. He simply spoke as if making conversation at a dinner table. Ethan, come here. Ethan shook his head. No. The man didn't react. Come here, he repeated, voice even. Now. Hale stepped forward. He said no. Ethan's father finally looked at Hale, really looked at him. There was no anger in his expression. No annoyance. No surprise. Just quiet assessment. You're in my way, the man said softly. Hale didn't move. And you'll stay there? The man asked. Yes, Hale growled. The man nodded once, almost respectfully. Then he reached into his coat. Not fast. Not dramatic. Slowly, like someone who had all the time in the world. Ethan gasped. Hale, no. Don't let him get closer. Hale positioned himself wider. Ready. What's in the coat? He demanded. The man paused, hand still inside his coat pocket. You are a man without a home, he said calmly. A man without purpose. You wander. You disappear. You have no one. Hale's jaw tightened. The man continued. You think you are protecting my son from me, but you misunderstand something fundamental. Enlighten me, Hale said, voice steel. The man stepped forward. He is not running from me. Hale frowned. The man's voice lowered to a chilling calm. He is running from what he is. Ethan shook his head violently. Don't listen to him, Hale. He's lying. He always lies. Hale grabbed Ethan's shoulder. What does he mean? Ethan clutched Hale's coat. He wants to use me, Hale, for something terrible. I'm not like him. I'm not. The man took another measured step. You don't know the child you're protecting, he said quietly. Hale kept his stance solid. I know enough. And what do you know? The man asked. That he's scared. And he shouldn't be. The man's expression barely shifted, but something behind his eyes did. A flicker. A warning. You do not understand, he said. You stand between a boy and the fate that was assigned to him long before you existed. Hale's voice dropped to a threat. He's not going with you. The man slowly removed his hand from his coat. Not a weapon. Not a gun. A small silver device. Ethan's face drained of color. No, Hale. That's what he used last time. Hale grabbed Ethan and pushed him behind a cargo crate. Run when I tell you. Ethan shook his head. I won't leave you. You will, Hale growled. Because this ends here. But Ethan's father only watched them calmly, the small device resting in his palm. And with a quiet, almost gentle movement, he pressed the button. The ground trembled. The air vibrated. The train engine sparked violently behind them. Ethan's knees buckled. Hale! His voice cracked. He can find me anywhere. He always knows where I am. Hale pulled him up fiercely. But he doesn't know where we're going. Without another word, Hale dragged Ethan into the storm and toward the maze of abandoned warehouses. Behind them, Ethan's father lowered the device and whispered, You cannot hide him. Ethan remained frozen, staring at the detective as if the man had reached inside his chest and crushed something fragile. The platform seemed to tilt under him. For a moment, the world went silent, except for the far-off hum of a departing train. Malik stepped closer, his voice dropping to something that was meant to be gentle, but carried the weight of bad news grinding its way inward. Ethan, he said softer now, listen to me. We are doing everything we can to find your father. But you need to be honest with me. Has he contacted you? Has he called? Texted? Anything at all? Ethan shook his head, slow, mechanical. No, he didn't, I swear. I thought he was at work. I thought he got home late and I just didn't see him. He always, his voice cracked. He always comes back. Malik pressed his lips together, hard, like someone restraining more truth than he was allowed to reveal. He exhaled through his nose. I believe you, the detective said, though his eyes showed fatigue, perhaps even doubt. But we can't find any trace of him. No phone activity. No bank usage. No surveillance footage after 1942 yesterday. A chill slid down Miss Caldwell's spine. You checked everything? She asked. Malik nodded once. Everything we can access without raising alerts. That wording made Miss Caldwell's pulse skip. Raising alerts to who? She asked carefully. Malik looked at her. Really looked. As if he suddenly saw her not just as a witness or bystander but as someone who could tolerate the truth, or someone already tangled in it. That's what I'm trying to figure out, he murmured. A train thundered past the station without stopping, its roar swallowing the moment. When the noise faded, Ethan held onto the detective's sleeve. "Detective Malik? Is he dead?" he whispered. Malik's jaw clenched. He didn't move his hand away from the boy. "We don't assume that," he said firmly. "We don't jump to worst-case scenarios. People disappear for reasons that aren't always clear at first." Ethan swallowed hard. "And the baby?" he asked. The temperature around them seemed to drop. Malik's eyes flicked to Miss Caldwell. He had hoped she would be the one to explain, but she was already bracing herself, her face stiff with a dawning horror. "You weren't supposed to know about that yet," Malik said quietly. "But I heard you," Ethan said. "You said it. At the house. You said they found blood. You said." Malik knelt, something he rarely did, judging from the tension in his body. "Ethan," he said, steady, low. "We don't know anything for certain. We only know that your dad left home abruptly. And that your mom—" Ethan waited, his throat shut tight. Malik opened his mouth, then shut it. He looked at Miss Caldwell. Her heart cracked. She knelt beside Ethan, her voice trembling against her will. "Sweetheart, the police found signs that your mother was hurt. They're still investigating and nobody is saying anything final. But they think—" She couldn't finish. Malik finished it for her. "They think she may have been pregnant." Ethan didn't breathe. His heart seemed to stop, then surge painfully. "Pregnant?" he echoed. A baby?" Neither adult spoke. The silence answered for them. Ethan's face twisted. Grief, confusion, disbelief, denial, all at once. He stumbled backward and would have fallen if Ms. Caldwell hadn't caught him under the arms. "No, no, no, no," he whispered. "That's not true. My mom, she would have told me. She would have said something. She always tells me everything. Why would she hide that? Why?" Malik rose again, expression dark. "Maybe she didn't hide it," he said. "Maybe she never had the chance." This time, Miss Caldwell felt the dread curl through her entire body. Ethan trembled violently. "You think something happened to her because the baby—" "We don't know what happened," Malik cut in, but the sharpness in his voice came not from impatience but fear. "What we do know is that someone cleaned that house in a hurry, and not well. Whoever did it thought they hid everything. They didn't. And my dad?" Ethan asked through shaking breaths. "What about him? Why would someone take him? Why would anybody want to hurt us? We're nobody." Malik looked away. He hesitated, and that hesitation said more than any explanation could. "Detective," Miss Caldwell said, her voice tightening. "What aren't you telling us?" Malik sighed again, the same heavy sound from earlier. "Your father had been looking into something," he finally said. "Something dangerous." Miss Caldwell felt Ethan stiffen. "What kind of something?" she asked. Malik scanned the platform. His posture changed, more alert, more guarded. He stepped in slightly closer, lowering his voice. "There was a message on one of your father's work devices. Hidden, encrypted. But we caught part of it." Ethan blinked. "What message?" Malik glanced between them. "It said—" He checked that no one was near, then leaned in. "It's too late. They know about the boy." A shock slammed through Miss Caldwell so violently she involuntarily grabbed Ethan's shoulder. Ethan stared, wide-eyed, breath frozen in his chest. "Me?" he whispered. "They know about me?" Malik's voice dropped even lower. "Ethan, whatever your father uncovered, whatever he was mixed up in, it wasn't about your mother. It wasn't about the baby. It wasn't about him." He held the boy's gaze. "It was about you." The world seemed to shake. Miss Caldwell felt her throat go dry. "Detective, What are you implying? Not implying, Malik replied. Telling you. He paused, as if weighing whether the risk of speaking outweighed the risk of silence. Then, someone out there wants this boy, he said. Badly, and I don't know why. But whatever your father discovered, he died or disappeared trying to protect him. Ethan's entire body went numb. My father protected me from what? Malik straightened, scanning the station again. He suddenly looked like a man who knew they were running out of time. That, he said, is what I'm trying to figure out. But we need to move. Now. Miss Caldwell's heart jumped. Move where? She asked. Malik met her eyes. To someplace safe. Ethan stepped between them. Why me? He demanded, voice cracking. What do they want from me? I'm just a kid. I was just trying to go home. Malik's face softened with something like pity. Ethan, he said quietly, that's the thing. You don't have a home anymore. Not the kind you think. The words echoed too closely, too painfully. The sentence Ethan had said hours earlier on the platform to a stranger. You have no home and I have no mother. And now it wasn't just a desperate thing he said in fear. It was the truth. Miss Caldwell tightened her grip on him as his knees weakened. Malik checked his watch. His breathing changed. We need to go, he said again. There's no more time to explain. I have a car waiting on the lower level. It's unmarked. No one should have followed me. He stopped. His eyes snapped toward the station entrance. Footsteps. Too many. Too synchronized. Too purposeful. A cold shiver raced up Miss Caldwell's spine. Detective? She whispered. Malik reached inside his coat. Subtle, controlled, and placed his hand on the holster resting beneath the fabric. Get behind me, he said. Ethan clutched Miss Caldwell's sleeve. Who are they? He whispered. Malik didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the shadowy figures emerging at the top of the stone staircase. 3, then 4, then 5, descending with silent precision, like they already knew exactly who they were coming for. Miss Caldwell felt her pulse hammer in her throat. Detective, she whispered shakily. What do they want with a child? Malik swallowed. His voice came out tight, grim, and almost disbelieving as he said it aloud. They're not after any child. He drew his weapon low against his leg. They're after this one. The men descending the stairs moved with an eerie synchronization. Quiet, controlled, deliberate. These weren't random troublemakers or commuters. They walked with the precision of people trained to approach a target without hesitation. Ethan felt Miss Caldwell's arms circle protectively around him. Malik stepped forward, positioning his body between them and the oncoming threat. His stance shifted. Knees bent, weight centered, eyes locked with a predator's clarity. Stay close, Malik murmured. And don't run unless I tell you. Miss Caldwell swallowed hard. Detective, who are they? Malik's jaw tightened. They're the reason your father vanished. Ethan's breath hitched. So they're the ones who hurt him? Malik didn't answer. Which was the answer. The men reached the mid-level landing. One of them, tall, pale-skinned, sharp-featured, wearing a fitted black coat, caught sight of Malik and paused. His eyes were cold, assessing, unfamiliar yet frighteningly intentional. He exchanged a subtle nod with the others. They spread out, blocking the upper exit, blocking the lower stairs, boxing them in. The worst-case scenario Malik had been trying to avoid was unfolding in real time. Detective, Miss Caldwell whispered urgently. We can't fight them. We're not going to fight, Malik said. We're going to escape. How? Ethan asked, terrified. Malik's eyes scanned the station with frantic calculation. This platform has an access corridor. Maintenance. Locked with a keycard. We don't have one, Ms. Caldwell said. Yes, we do. Malik pointed at one of the approaching men. His. The first man stepped forward, hands calmly in his pockets, as though this were a casual meeting instead of a covert assault. Detective Malik, he said in a smooth, accented voice. You're making this more difficult than it needs to be. Malik raised his weapon slightly. Stop right there. The man's lips curled into what could only be described as a polite threat. You know the protocol. That boy belongs with us. Ethan flinched so violently that Miss Caldwell had to hold him upright. I don't belong to anyone, he shouted. Ethan, Malik warned softly. Let me speak for you. The man's calm eyes flicked to the child. You were never supposed to hear the message your father intercepted, he said. But that doesn't change the fact that we've been looking for you for a very long time. Ethan's stomach twisted so hard he thought he'd be sick. You're lying, he whispered. I don't even know you. The man smiled faintly. You don't need to know us. What matters is that we know what you are. Malik stiffened. Miss Caldwell froze. Ethan's voice cracked. What I am? I'm just a kid. No, the man replied calmly. You're not. Malik stepped forward, gun raised. That's enough. The man didn't look afraid. Not even slightly. You're outnumbered, detective, he said. And out of time. Hand over the boy, and no one else needs to be hurt. No, Malik said flatly. The man sighed almost sympathetically. I hoped you'd be reasonable. But you law enforcement types often misjudge the scale of things far beyond your pay grade. He nodded. The men behind him took another step forward. Miss Caldwell instinctively pulled Ethan back. Malik, she whispered. The detective's hand tightened on his weapon. Behind me. Now. The men spread wider like a net drawing tight. The station air thickened. Every sound sharpened. The echo of footsteps, the hum of lights, the faint metallic scent of impending violence. Then, Malik whispered to them without turning his head. When I move, you run. Ethan stared at him. Run where? Malik's answer was quiet but fierce. Anywhere I'm not standing. The lead man tilted his head, watching Malik's shifting stance. Don't do this. It was done the moment you showed your face, Malik replied. Then, it happened fast. Malik shoved a nearby metal trash bin downward, sending it clattering and rolling across the platform. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The men flinched. Malik grabbed Ethan with one hand, Miss Caldwell with the other, and pulled them toward the far stairwell. Gio! He barked. Ethan stumbled forward. Miss Caldwell steadied him, adrenaline rocketing through her veins. Malik fired a warning shot into the floor, sparking loud, shocking, forcing the men to duck. Move! Malik yelled. They bolted down the stairs, but before they reached the lower platform, two more figures appeared at the bottom, blocking the way. Back up! Malik ordered. They scrambled back up to the platform, but the original group was closing in fast. They were trapped. Ethan's breaths came in rapid, panicked bursts. We're not getting out. We're not getting out. Look at me, Miss Caldwell said, gripping his shoulders. We will. You will. I promise. But even she didn't believe her own words. Malik's eyes darted toward a closed metal door with a glowing red panel beside it. The maintenance access. He pointed. There. It's locked, Miss Caldwell said. Not for long. Malik sprinted toward one of the approaching men, slammed his shoulder into him, grabbed the man's lanyard keycard, and shoved him to the ground. Run to the door. Malik shouted. They ran. Malik dashed after them, swiping the keycard through the panel. The light flicked from red to green. "Inside," he ordered. Ethan slipped through first. Ms. Caldwell followed. Malik was turning to enter when a hand grabbed his coat from behind. A second hand wrenched the weapon from his grip. A voice growled, "You're not taking the boy." Malik slammed his elbow backward, breaking free, and shoved himself inside the doorway. He hit the emergency lock button. The steel door slammed shut just as a fist pounded the other side. Ms. Caldwell jumped. Ethan covered his ears. Malik leaned against the door, chest heaving. "They won't stop," he said, breathing hard. "This isn't a misunderstanding. This isn't a kidnapping." He looked at Ethan, really looked at him. "This is a retrieval." Ethan's voice trembled. "Retrieval for what?" Malik swallowed. "For who you're supposed to become." Ethan's breath caught. Miss Caldwell felt dread coil around her spine. "Detective," she whispered. "You know something. Something you haven't said." Malik nodded once. "I didn't tell you everything I found." He paused. Then, "Ethan's father wasn't the only one investigating." Ethan blinked. "What do you mean?" Malik's eyes darkened. "I was investigating too." A tense silence. Miss Caldwell felt the air shift. "Investigating what?" she asked. Malik looked at Ethan. "Your origins." Ethan stepped back. "My what?" Malik exhaled slowly, painfully. "There's no record of your birth." Ethan froze. No hospital file. No birth certificate. No vaccination log. No early medical records. Your documentation begins when you were 4 years old. Everything before that, he hesitated, is a blank space. Ethan's body went cold. "No," he whispered. "No, that's not true. My mom told me. She told me I was born in Chicago." "Ethan," Malik said gently, "I checked every hospital in a 100-mile radius, every clinic, every midwife registry, every private facility." He shook his head. "There's no record of you anywhere." Ethan shook, tears gathering, breath breaking in his throat. "That doesn't mean anything," he cried. It just means they lost the file. Or the hospital burned down. Or something. Why are you talking like I'm not? Like I'm not even?" Miss Caldwell pulled him close as he sobbed into her side. Malik looked away, pained. "I'm telling you because those men out there, they know. And they want you back because you were never supposed to stay with your parents." Ethan's eyes widened with horror. "I wasn't supposed to stay. Because why?" Malik whispered the only answer he had. "Because you weren't theirs." Ethan stood frozen, his mind refusing, fighting, to process what Malik had just said. The dimly lit maintenance corridor hummed faintly with electricity, pipes groaning overhead. The air smelled of metal, old dust, and danger. Miss Caldwell felt Ethan's heartbeat pounding against her arm like a trapped animal desperate to escape. "Detective?" she said slowly, softly, as if afraid the wrong tone would shatter the boy further. "What do you mean he wasn't theirs? That doesn't make sense." Malik didn't answer right away. His face showed something between dread and determination, like a man who knew the truth was a grenade, and now it had begun counting down. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I mean," he said carefully, "that I found no evidence Ethan ever belonged to any legal guardian before the age of 4. And not just missing paperwork, missing existence. As though someone wiped every trace of him clean." Ethan shook his head violently. No, you're wrong. My mom told me stories about when I was a baby, how I used to sleep on her chest, how I said my first word in the kitchen, how I liked applesauce, and cried when I heard loud noises. She wouldn't lie. Malik knelt beside him, calm but unyielding. I'm not calling her a liar, Ethan. I think she believed every word she told you. He hesitated. But I also think those were memories she was given, not ones she lived. Miss Caldwell's breath caught. Given by who? She whispered. Before Malik could answer, something slammed into the maintenance door behind him. Bang! Ethan jumped so hard he nearly fell. Another blow. Harder. Metal groaned under the force. They found us, Malik said, standing quickly. A muffled voice came through the door, calm, steady, terrifyingly in control. Detective, don't do this. It was the lead man. Hand over the boy, the man continued, and we will allow you and the woman to leave unharmed. But if you force us to enter that corridor, we cannot guarantee the same outcome. Malik's eyes hardened. That's not happening, he muttered. Another bang. The door bent inward slightly. Ethan cried out. Miss Caldwell tightened her arms protectively around him. Detective, we can't stay here. They'll break through soon. Malik scanned the corridor. Cables, pipes, a flickering amber emergency light, a grated walkway that stretched into darkness. There's a secondary exit deeper inside, he said. If we reach it first, we can get above ground before they catch up. And if they block it? Miss Caldwell asked. Malik's expression said he had already considered that, and didn't like the answer. Another crash. The door bent further. Malik pulled Ethan to his feet. Stay between us, he instructed. Don't fall behind. Don't run ahead. And whatever you hear, whatever you see, don't look back. Ethan nodded shakily. The detective took the lead. Miss Caldwell followed with Ethan clinging to her arm. They moved. The corridor stretched ahead like a narrow tunnel carved through the earth. Pipes lined the walls, dripping occasionally. The overhead lights buzzed, flickered, and cast unstable shadows that swayed like watching silhouettes. Ethan's small footsteps echoed between the walls, irregular, panicked. Malik checked their rear every few seconds. Miss Caldwell spoke quietly, trying to keep Ethan breathing evenly. It's okay. We're moving. We're staying together. But Ethan wasn't listening. His mind was stuck on one sentence. You weren't theirs. The corridor split ahead, left and right. Malik stopped, squinting at the peeling map bolted to the wall. Which way? Miss Caldwell whispered. Malik didn't answer for several seconds. Left corridor, darker, steeper. Right corridor, more lit but exposed, wider, easy to chase through. Left, Malik decided. They turned. Ethan glanced behind them and froze. A metal scream echoed through the corridor. The door was tearing open. Go! Malik barked. They ran. The left corridor narrowed further, forcing them to move single file. The walls sweated with condensation. It felt alive, like a throat closing around them. Ethan gasped for air. My parents, they loved me, he whispered desperately. They loved me. My mom. She sang to me at night. My dad. He let me sit on his shoulders. He. They loved you, Miss Caldwell said fiercely. That's real. Nobody can erase that. But if I wasn't theirs, then why? A sound cut him off. Footsteps. Fast. Too fast. Malik grabbed Ethan's wrist. Run! They sprinted deeper, lungs burning. Ethan stumbled twice. Miss Caldwell caught him each time. The corridor widened, then opened into a cavernous underground junction filled with old generators, cables, and iron support beams. Malik cursed under his breath. This is a dead zone. No direct exit. Then what do we do? MS Caldwell asked, voice shaking. We buy time. He pointed across the room to another metal door. That leads to the stairwell. We get to those stairs, we're out. But they're right behind us. And they don't know this layout, Malik said. I do. He handed Ethan something small and metal. A key. If anything happens to me, you give this to the first officer you see. Understand? Ethan shook his head violently. No, I'm not leaving you. You're not, Malik said firmly. Not unless you have to. The pounding grew louder, closer. Malik positioned himself behind a concrete pillar, gun raised. Both of you stay behind that generator. Don't move until I say. Ms. Caldwell grabbed Ethan and pulled him behind the massive machine. The hum vibrated in their bones. Ethan peeked out. The corridor behind them flickered with shadows. Then, footsteps entered the room. Slow, controlled, like they already knew they had cornered their prey. The lead man's voice echoed. Detective, you can't protect him. Not from what he is. Malik responded sharply. He's a child, a human child. Whatever fantasy you built around him ends today. A soft chuckle. You still don't understand, the man said. He stepped into view. Tall, pale, immaculate coat, unblinking eyes. He scanned the room with calm precision. Where's the boy? Ethan's breath seized. Miss Caldwell covered his mouth, trembling. Malik stepped out from behind the pillar. Right here, he said coldly. With me. The man studied him. You're not thinking clearly. You're a detective, a man who follows logic. But logic says you can't win. Malik didn't move. Lumen sight. I will give you one more chance. Tell me where the boy is. Malik's voice darkened. Go to hell. The man nodded once, almost respectfully. I see. He snapped his fingers. Two of the men behind him moved instantly, splitting apart, flanking the side aisles of the room like wolves circling prey. Ethan squeezed his eyes shut. Miss Caldwell held him so tight her fingers ached. Malik whispered under his breath. Now. He fired. The shot cracked through the chamber, ricocheting off metal and stone. The lead man ducked, signaling sharply. The room erupted. Ethan screamed. Miss Caldwell grabbed him, dragging him toward the stairwell door. Move! Malik shouted. Don't stop. But before they reached the metal door, a figure stepped out from behind a generator. Miss Caldwell gasped. Not the pale man. Not one of the ones from the stairs. Someone else. A black man, thick-built, dark eyes, wearing civilian clothes. He stepped into their path without hesitation. Ethan stumbled backward. Miss Caldwell froze. Malik spun when he heard Miss Caldwell's cry. No! He shouted. Get away from them! The man didn't move. He raised his empty hands slowly. I'm not here to hurt the boy, he said calmly. The lead man's voice bellowed from behind Malik. Stop him! Malik fired again. Gunshots echoed. The mysterious new man lowered his voice. Ethan, he said, speaking the boy's name with a familiarity that chilled the blood. I need you to listen to me. Your father trusted me. He told me where to find you if things went wrong. Ethan shook violently. My father what? The man stepped closer. My name is Raymond. Your father knew this day might come, and he wanted me to get you out before they did. Ethan's heart hammered. You knew my father? Raymond nodded once. I was the last person he spoke to before he disappeared. The train screeched as it approached the next station, its metallic howl echoing through the cold night air. People on the platform shifted anxiously, stepping away from the edge as the wind pushed through like a warning. But the little boy didn't move. He stood with his small hands balled into fists, staring at the tracks as if they were calling to him. The woman's heart stopped. She rushed forward and scooped him back just as the train thundered past, the force almost knocking them off balance. She held him tight, too tight, but the boy didn't pull away. He just hung there in her arms, breathing fast, trembling. "Why would you do that?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why?" He didn't answer at first. His small fingers slowly twisted into the fabric of her coat. "I wasn't trying to fall," he finally murmured. I thought maybe someone would notice me." The words hit harder than the train's wind. She sank to her knees right there on the platform, wrapping her arms around him as if trying to protect him from the entire world. "I noticed you," she said softly. "From the moment you spoke to me." The boy swallowed hard. Then, "Don't leave me too." She froze, not because she didn't want him, but because no one had ever asked her to stay. Her life had been defined by people walking away. Friends, family, even strangers who had once pretended to care. She wasn't used to being needed. She wasn't used to being anything but alone. But this little boy, he was looking at her with a kind of trust she didn't think she deserved. And yet, she didn't want to break it. She stood again, still holding his hand tightly. "Come on," she said gently. "Let's find somewhere warm to talk. Somewhere safe." "Safe," he repeated quietly, as if testing the word for the first time. They walked out of the station together, disappearing into the glow of streetlights. Two broken souls whose paths weren't supposed to cross, yet somehow had. And for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt completely alone.